You know, Bill Burr used to be funny, and I really put a lot of emphasis on used to be because he's not so much anymore, as it seems that after his wife started giving him the big mic treatment, he started having to backpedal a little bit, trying to play both sides when he doesn't really understand either side. Bill Burr used to do a lot of comedy that was really critical of the woke mob, and therefore really good, because it's based in shared experience and, well, fact. But because of the fact that his wife is one of these woke-osos, he's decided he has to go and backpedal a little bit and maybe try and target the right. Problem is, he doesn't really understand what problems are actually plaguing the right, and therefore he just runs his mouth and says stupid shit time in and time out again. And it happens every single time he tries to target the right because he just doesn't know what he's talking about. Most recently now, he's decided he's going after the white conservative men who are going out and running their mouth about the utter failure that is Disney's Snow White remake. Problem is, he doesn't even know which movie he's criticizing, and I think that's on purpose to try to make the joke funnier, but it fails. And the joke itself isn't even a great joke, as he compares two completely different things in his attempt to paint conservatives and liberals as the same thing, and he just ultimately runs his mouth and makes himself look like a total dumbass. Before we go any further, like, subscribe, and let's get into this. Coming from Fandom Pulse, the Mandalorian actor Bill Burr mocks white conservatives for criticizing Snow White's biggest fucking babies. And you know, I really liked him in Mandalorian. That's actually where I heard of him for the first time, and I saw some of his comedy. He used to be great. But now, the Mandalorian actor Bill Burr mocked white conservatives for criticizing the Walt Disney Company's Snow White, describing them as biggest fucking babies. During his March 27th podcast, Burr brought up the subject, saying, "One of my favorite things is how each side thinks the other side is dumb, and then each side thinks the other side is a bunch of babies. Specifically, the right thinks that liberals are a bunch of fucking snowflakes, whiny entitled assholes," which, I mean, come on, that's pretty fucking true, right? But for conservative people to act like they're not the biggest fucking babies also is fucking hilarious, he continued. From there, Burr railed on white conservatives who have criticized Disney's live-action Snow White film, albeit he calls it Cinderella. He says, "My people, whitey, we're all fucking upset. There's enough of us to get going trending anyway. We're upset about the new Cinderella movie. The actress playing Cinderella isn't white. There's no prince. They changed the story. What am I going to tell my kids?" The shit that my people get upset about, what am I going to tell my kids? Well, fucking talk around it the way we talk around the real history of this country. I think you could that. For you talk around fucking genocide and slavery, you could talk around a stupid fucking movie about some broad who doesn't exist. You can't do that? Go take them to see fucking Pinocchio, he suggested. Burr continued to mock white conservatives. "I don't like Pinocchio because that fucking wooden puppet transitions into a real boy. First of all, I don't like trans people, and God only makes real boys, not some immigrant named Geppetto. What am I supposed to tell my kids?" And then after going on this long-ass tirade, he decides he thinks he's finally going to find some parody. He's going to attack the other side too. And what does he have to say there? He then contrasted this to liberals. You go on the other side of the fucking liberals, you know, "Hey, how you doing, sweetheart? Call me sir." Doing all that shit and having a fucking absolute fucking meltdown. That's basically what it is. It's my people having meltdowns while ignoring truly oppressed people in this country, he concluded. You know, I really gotta pray I keep my hair, because if I go bald, my beard's red as his. I need to not look like him in every way possible. This fucking dumbass is out here. First of all, he has to say fuck every other word, and I know I'm doing it too, but he's doing it because he's got no other option other than to swear to try to sound funny, whereas I'm doing it because I like the word. And then his attempt to play parody, where he goes and he lists a 4 fucking paragraph long rant about how much he hates conservatives, and then gives a single paragraph for why he has an issue with liberals. It's not really the same thing, and the fact that he's painting it off as being the same thing is ridiculous. And then let's say for the sake of argument, he was being fair, and that those two statements were equal in length and stature. But are they equal in quality? Are the complaints being levied the same thing? Well, no, because the liberal complaints he highlighted are in fact liberal snowflake meltdowns that are all rooted in extreme cognitive dissonance, this person complaining because their mental illness isn't being affirmed at that moment. But when you go and look at what he's complaining about the conservatives saying, what we're talking about is the degradation and destruction of Western culture, Western society, and Western tradition. We don't have an issue that they're changing Snow White because it's some fictional story and we're like looking for a reason to be victimized. We're complaining because the point of the changes is to degrade and destroy the integral messages, the important lifelong lessons inside of Snow White, the pro-cultural ideas, the pro-autonomy and pro-unity and pro-family messages of the Snow White movie. I mean, I'm just looking at a small bit of it. The way that they changed the song Whistle While You Work. In the original one, it's She specifically says that I'll use the broom. In the new one, she says you'll use the broom, and Snow White takes on no responsibilities of her own. It is this idea that everyone else should work for me instead of I should help everyone in this working. The problem here isn't that it's just people complaining, it's the substance of what's being complained about. And to pretend that these are the same kind of level of thing to complain about is utterly ridiculous, and I think he knows that. While Bill Burr thinks he's being funny and pointing out some kind of hypocrisy, he's not. The things he's mocking white conservatives for is them noticing that there is a clear agenda that is being waged against them by the likes of the Walt Disney Company. As Jack Silbeck noted back in November 2023, they hate whites, they hate Christians, they hate the successful, they hate families. That's the reason they're like this. In fact, Burr's mocking of white conservatives proves the point. He mocks them for noticing the character's race has been purposely changed, for axing the prince, which leads young girls away from desiring families, and they changed the story to completely remove not only the moral lessons about envy, but to remove the Christian allegory. Let's not forget, in the original Snow White, they dedicate a 30-second scene to her praying. And not just praying about herself. In fact, she doesn't pray about herself at all. She prays for the dwarves. She prays that they get a happy life, and she prays that Grumpy might like her. And the entire plot of the original Snow White was the evil queen killing herself effectively in an attempt to covet Snow White's beauty. In the new one, she's not really coveting anything from Snow White. She's just angry the mirror chose Snow White. And Snow White embodies none of the pure ideas that were supposedly sought after by the queen. There's also something deliberately dubious about Bill Burr comparing the outrage over Snow White to that of Pinocchio and Geppetto and whatnot. No one is complaining about Pinocchio, nobody's labeling it quote-unquote woke, but he's trying to levy that joke as a claim of what people really believe. He's making the straw man and saying it's real instead of just creating something to mock. If this was explicitly just a joke, there'd be no reason to complain, but it's not really that. He's legitimately making these complaints as though conservatives should be outraged over the nature of somebody else becoming a boy who isn't, and claiming Geppetto is an immigrant, which he isn't because Pinocchio is set in Italy. Now, Phantom Pulse continues with, conservatives are rightly upset that the truth has been obfuscated and rewritten. It is quite likely that they aren't upset enough about it. Stories matter. The Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau even noted that film and TV shows are way to pass down values to the next generation. He said that there are life lessons that are in these stories that carry on the tradition, and speaking to George Lucas, he felt that the Western was the genre that helped teach generation of people coming of age about the value systems that are espoused by that genre. And that Star Wars was part of that responsibility, is remembering that part of your audience is a whole generation that's coming of age, and through stories we express our values to the next generation. And so one of the things he said was not to lose sight that this is the main audience for stories. When films like Snow White are obviously trying to impose bad values onto viewers, righteous anger is justified, and it should not be mocked or derided in an attempt to cow people from defending the truth. And that's exactly true. The reason people have an issue with the degradation of Snow White isn't because we made white to brown or whatever. It's not some ethnic Jesus over here. The problem is entirely in the fact that Snow White is a morality tale. And we've taken the morality out of Snow White and we've replaced it with significantly more degenerate and explicitly more harmful messages that we shouldn't be teaching anybody, let alone young impressionable children who are going on and watching these things. Also, how dare you degrade any of the Disney stuff? I'm sorry, but Disney movies are quite good. I own all of them on VHS because I quite enjoy watching them. They are peak storytelling done in a way that can be appreciated by both adults and kids. They're not children's movies, they're movies that are made to appeal to children and everyone else on top of that. It is quite literally the most important medium, and these are some of the most important movies ever made. Phantom Pulse then continues, the mocking of gender ideology due to its denial of truth is just, Father Hugh Bourbon explains, in the classical literature of ancient church and indeed of the ancient world that St. Thomas was following, the form of insulting was only the opposite of the form of rejoicing or celebrating. This means that because we possess some great good in which we take joy and delight and express it, so too we mock the evil things that try to prevent us from having it. If there were no joy much stronger and more real than evil we avoided, then it would be very dangerous to insult our enemy. We would just be dwelling on the fact of evil and not of the power and beauty and pleasure of the good. And that quote does sum it up pretty well. The reason why we go so hard on this modern remake is because Disney ultimately has some of a responsibility to propagate the original story and maintain those moral beats. And if you want to modernize it for a modern age, have the moral lessons that are pro-social to the modern age, okay, go ahead and make a movie that's beneficial for the modern age. But the problem is Snow White isn't beneficial for the modern age. It's beneficial for no age. It encourages loneliness, it encourages antisocial behaviors, and it encourages vapidity. In fact, as a father, Bill Burr should be most inclined to understand the reason we must protect and insult Disney more than anybody else. As the father of 2 daughters, you think that he would understand the importance of the lessons being spread and taught in the original Snow White. As somebody who hasn't fully drank the far left Kool-Aid, you think he'd be a little bit more appreciative of the values that are espoused by this movie, and more importantly, be just a little bit upset by the lack of proper values and the propagation of corrupt values spread by the remake. It's not a ridiculous position to take. It's not just a matter of old white guys complaining because they have something to complain about. It is a matter of the actual soul and integrity and morality of the West that is at stake when it comes to these remakes. Stories are how you tell lessons. It's how you teach people how to live life, how to treat people fairly, and how you teach them consequences of negative actions without them having to go out and experience these negative actions in the real world. It is a significantly more harmless media to teach people the important and necessary lessons for life to continue. And if you think that's worth degrading, making fun of, and shaming people for pointing out, be my guest. But you should also understand that it is one of the most important things, and far more important people have realized and will realize that in the future. The reason why Disney made these movies was not just to make money, but was as a way to spread social understanding. And that's why it's resonated with so many people, and that's why the original one is timeless, and the new one isn't even going to last till the end of the year. But that's pretty much all I've got. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this, and I will see you guys on the next one.